Hey, my name is Evamarie and welcome to my YouTube channel. So I have been living in Rome for at least a year now, and I've really been wanting to share my experience, share a little bit of what it's like being in Italy, particularly in Rome, because that's a city that I moved to, what it's like for work, dating, life in general, making friends, and maybe share some insight for anyone who's thinking of moving here or just thinking of moving to Europe in general. Okay, so before I get into the meat of this video, I first want to give you some background into why I came to Italy in the first place. So I came to Italy about 6 years ago. I was in my junior year of university, and I decided to stay in Rome for one semester of study abroad. It was the greatest experience I have ever had in my life. Or I don't want to say the greatest, but it was one of the greatest. And I learned so much about myself. I experienced crazy growth just as like an individual, as a person, as a woman. And I knew and I promised myself that I was always going to come back to this country and that I was going to live here at some point. I didn't know when, I didn't know how, but I knew I was going to do it. The important thing that you need to have taken care of if you want to live in Italy is work. You have to understand how you're working, what job you're going to have, and all of that. And I would say that working in Italy is very different from working in the United States. First off, because I'm a foreigner and because I don't speak the language fluently here, it's not as simple to get a job. But because I am an American and I'm a native English speaker, the easiest job that I could get, and that's available basically for anyone who's a native English speaker, is to become a teacher and teach English. So that's what I'm doing right now. The pay for an English teacher in Italy is not fantastic, but it is something that you can live on. It's something that you can survive off of. And if you're just looking to be here for a short time, it's really not a bad option. And I would recommend it for anyone who just wants maybe to take a break from their traditional career, wants to come in Italy and just experience life, work a little bit, and go back home. But I would say, fair warning, if you are looking to make a permanent life here in Italy, teaching English is absolutely not going to cut it. And you just have to know that the economy here is not the strongest and there's not a lot of money to go around. So even though cost of living here is much lower than what you would experience in the US, it's still not dirt cheap. So I recommend having a company of your own. Either you're freelancing and you already have clients, you have your own business, or you have a job lined up for you with an American company or something with the UN. If you have that in your pocket, then you can live here really comfortably. And it's much easier, of course, with your paperwork to stay because you can show that you're making money. If you're working for a company, then they can sponsor you. But if you're not going that route, it's really difficult to kind of figure out how to stay here, how to make money. A lot of people here work under the table, and that's not necessarily so good for your visa situation if you're trying to do everything legally. So working here, overall, it's not a terrible experience. I wouldn't say that teaching is the most amazing thing that you can do, especially if that's not like your life calling. but it is available. It's a huge privilege to be able to know that you can come to a foreign country and basically already have a job lined up for you, in the sense that you can always fall back on teaching if there's nothing else to do. But I would say that as long as you're coming to Rome because you love Rome, or coming to Italy because you love Italy, you love the country, you want to experience the culture, then it's a really great reason to be here. But if you're coming to Italy because you want to make money, I would say don't do it. This is not the country to come for money. It's not the country to come to become some big, massive success for yourself. I would say go somewhere else. Go to the UK, go to Germany, but don't come to Italy for that. Italy is for enjoying the culture, the history, the people, the food, anything else besides work and money. Unless, again, you're going to work for the UN or you already have a job with an American company. Next, what I think is really important to share is dating. Oh my gosh, I think maybe Italy is like famous for, I don't know, women wanting to come here because they think the men are beautiful and they're romantic and it's going to be so exciting and they're going to have so much fun, blah, blah, blah. And I would say on one hand, it can be true. I think that dating in Italy, as long as you're not taking it too seriously, can be a lot of fun. And you can meet some cool guys, they'll show you around. Italian men definitely fulfill the stereotype as far as being really romantic. But I would always tell someone who's coming here and who's trying to date that you have to take the romance with a grain of salt. Romance and the chase is just par for the course here. It's a part of the culture. It's ingrained in the people. The women are hard to get. The men like to chase. It's just the way that they do things here. But you kind of have to think about it as if, okay, this guy is lying to me and I need to really suss out if he's being serious and he genuinely likes me, or he's just trying to have a fling with an American girl. More specifically, dating as a black woman in Italy. I know that there's a stereotype out here that like Italian men are in love with black women, and I really don't think that that's true. But I will say this: if you are different, whether that means you're black or you're Asian or you're blonde, you're gonna get a lot of attention because you're different. And it's not always, I guess it may not always be positive attention, because sometimes it is like fetishism. Because you're different, you know, they want to try something new, and you want to kind of try to avoid those kinds of men, because there's a lot of guys here who will prey on girls who are foreign, girls who are different, girls who are American, basically, and especially Americans, because we have a really big reputation of being easy. And, you know, a lot of American women come here on vacation, they come for study abroad, and they're not looking for anything serious. And so there are a lot of guys who know that this is what happens, and so they tend to think, okay, I just want to, you know, mess around with an American girl and then she's gonna go home and I don't have to take her seriously. So I would say that you have to know what you're going for when you're dating. If you're here because you want to take a guy seriously, the first thing that you should do is tell him that you're staying for a while and that you plan on staying for a while. That'll automatically cut out, I think, a good deal of like BS. If you tell someone that you're going to be here for a long time, then they tend to consider you or take you a little bit more seriously, because they realize, oh, okay, then she's not just here for like 3 months and then she's going to leave. Another thing, Italian guys are, okay, they are very, very forward, which is good because you will never second guess if he likes you or not. If a guy likes you, you know, which that I really like and I appreciate. So dating in Italy, men are not hard to find. They're really romantic. They're definitely going to pursue you. You won't have to question if someone knows you or not, but you have to take everything with a grain of salt. You have to make sure that he's serious. You really have to kind of make him work for it and kind of give him a little bit of a chase, because it's just the way that it is here. And if you're trying to avoid the American stereotype of like easy girl on vacation, that's probably what's going to protect you the most. And racism. I don't know why I just said racism so excitedly. I'm not excited about racism. But I do know that this is probably the number one concern that anyone has when they're trying to come to Europe. I remember before I came to Italy for the very first time, I literally Googled, do Italians like black people? And I was concerned, like, am I going to deal with racism? Are people going to be, like, rude to me? Am I going to have problems? And I think all of those concerns are valid, and I don't blame anyone for asking those questions. But I will say this: don't let the fear of racism or the fear of someone being prejudiced towards you prevent you from living your life and traveling and seeing places, because at the end of the day, their bias, their prejudice is their problem and it's not on you. Do I think Italians are racist? I think it's Europe, and I think that because it's Europe, you can obviously, most definitely deal with racism at some point. Have I personally had any racist encounters in Italy? No, I haven't. The worst I've ever gotten here is that people stare at me a lot. And at this point, I've just gotten used to it. I don't take it personally. I tend to think I'm a little bit, I know I'm different here, but I'm not that different because there are a lot of Africans here. So it's not like Italians never see black people. But I will say that I know that there are not a lot of black Americans in Italy, and I'm pretty much very easily spotted as being an American. So I think I spark a bit of curiosity and people wonder where I'm from. If they don't think that I'm American, usually people think that I'm French, which I don't know. I think that's kind of cool that I give off a French vibe. But what I will say is the basic level of racism that you will see and that you will notice here is that there's a huge problem with immigration. And immigrants, people who have come here from like Africa, they come from Nigeria, they come from Ethiopia, they come from North Africa, Morocco, blah, blah, blah. Those people have a really difficult time integrating into society, and it is very obvious. I even see it a lot with Asians. There are a lot of Asian people in Italy. I think Asians are the highest minority in Italy, and they're also not completely or fully integrated into Italian society. You will notice and see that there are some pockets of people who are Nigerian or who are Chinese who have blended into Italian society, and like their kids are Italian and they go to Italian schools and they speak Italian fluently. There are people who are like that, but they're very few and far between. Majority of the immigrants here live on the outskirts. For example, here in Rome, there's a lot of like African immigrants who all live around Termini, which is the main train station here. There's also a lot of Chinese that live around Termini, and so that's kind of where they get pushed to. They stay on that side of the city. They're not really a part of society. I can't necessarily say that they're super welcome here. Italy on a whole just has a massive problem with immigration, and I'm not really going to get into it in this video, but I do know that it's not totally racist. Okay, I don't even want to say that. I think that there's a lot of racism as far as people who are coming from Africa and Asia, but more specifically people coming from Africa, who I think there's just this large sentiment of we don't want them here. And you can feel it, and it's kind of palpable. And I definitely know and recognize that I get treated better because I'm readily spotted as an American, and I'm readily spotted as someone who comes from a country that people consider to be wealthy, and people don't look at me and think that I'm trying to stay here and steal jobs. People tend to look at me and think, oh, she's coming, maybe she met someone, she just wants to spend some time in Rome, and probably at some point she's going to go back to her country. And I know that for people who are coming from different countries where they really are coming to Italy, coming to Europe to make a life for themselves, they know that these people are not looking to go back to their country, and so they really, I think, view them in a way as like invaders, and it's just not the best situation. And it breaks my heart because I don't like to see Black people suffering like that, but it is definitely something that you see here. Friends are the lifeblood of life. Making friends in Italy, I think, is pretty easy depending on who you're trying to be friends with. And I would say that making friends who are expats, finding people who you can relate to, who have traveled, who have come here, is really, really, really easy and super important. And I would recommend to anyone, if you are trying to move abroad and to go into a new city, you have to make sure and reach out and check if there's some kind of expat group that can help you and help you get situated, help you make friends, help you explore the city. And that's what I did when I came here. I joined an expat community, and I made really good friends out of it. And it was honestly one of the best things that I did, because now I'm able to be here and I have friends who I can connect with. We came from the United States, majority of us, not all of us. And we all have that kind of connection of like, okay, we are each other's home. That said, I will say that making Italian friends in Italy is it is not easy. Especially because if you're not fluent, it can be really difficult to find people who want to talk to you. My Italian is not amazing. It's not bad, but it's not amazing. And I definitely still need a lot of work and a lot of practice. And I think that that's a big hindrance for a lot of people. And I think for myself as well, because I need maybe like 10 minutes to kind of really warm up in my Italian, and most people don't want to wait 10 minutes for me to be able to feel more comfortable in my language and to kind of, I guess, flex my language skills. So I will say, yeah, it's not easy making friends here in Italy. At least it's not easy making Italian friends. But also the culture here is really different, because Italians tend to have the same friend groups from when they're 5 years old. Italians do not move very frequently. It's very opposite from the US, where Americans were like moving to different states, moving to different cities. We're very independent. We leave home at 18, we go to university, we get a job probably in a different state or in the state where we went to university, which it sometimes is out of state. That's a lot of words. But all of that is just to say that Americans on a whole, we're much more of the individual and willing to leave home, try new cities, and so there's a much greater need for Americans to make friends, especially in adulthood. But for Italians, it's basically the opposite. I think a lot of Italians here, they don't really leave home. They've been friends with each other since they were like 5 years old. And so they get to a point where they're like 25, 26, 30s, and their friend group is solid. They're like, we've known each other since we were like 10. We've known each other since we were 5. We don't need new friends. And so it's really, really difficult to kind of break into somebody's circle and to make friendships. The easiest way to do that is to get an Italian boyfriend. So if you want Italian friends, you probably need to work on getting an Italian boyfriend first. But even with that, it sucks because you don't want your only Italian friends to be your boyfriend's friends, because if y'all break up, that's it. Like, they're his friends. They're not going to want to hang out with you. They're not going to talk to you anymore. And what happens is when a lot of Americans do that, they end up having to go home. So I say stick with your American friends. If you can make some Italian friends along the way, then make them. But I'm not going to say that you need to make it such a massive priority. I know that it's great to be cool and close with people who are from here, who live here. You can learn so much more about the culture that way, and you really truly integrate into society when you're living and breathing and have friendships with Italians. But I don't think that anything should be forced, and I think that if you are finding it really difficult to make friends with Italians, then just make friends with other people. There's plenty of foreigners here. There's people from the UK. There's people from from France. There's people from Russia. There's people literally from all over the world here who you can absolutely make friends with and you can rock with, and you don't need to hang out with Italians. It's just my 2 cents. Overall, I think living in Italy I think it's been a really good experience for me personally, because I've just experienced a lot of growth here as an individual, as a woman, understanding what I want for myself, being more confident in myself, and I think I've needed to come here for that. But I will say this for people who are thinking about coming to Italy or who are thinking about moving to Rome, and I want to be very honest, is that moving to Rome is not for the faint of heart. People don't come to Rome, people don't come to Italy because they want to make money. People don't come to Italy because life is going to be simple, life is going to be easy. It's not. A lot of things don't necessarily function very well here, especially in Rome, because there's just a lot of corruption as far as things just don't happen. There's problem with transportation, there's so much bureaucracy, everything moves slow. And Italians have this crazy, laissez-faire attitude about a lot of things. And on one hand, I love it because they're very much like, we work to live and we want to enjoy ourselves. But also, there's the issue that sometimes when you just need to get something done, efficiency here is just not on the level that it is in the United States. And so coming from a country like America, it can really be frustrating, and it can cause you to you really, really have to take a step back and relax and breathe. And you just have to adjust to the way things run here. And that's just the honest truth. And so I say this not to discourage people, not to make people feel like they shouldn't come to Italy if that's on their heart. But I think that you should always be well versed in the pros and cons of the decisions that you make. And something about Italy is just, it's not an easy place to live by any means. But I don't want to say all of this to make it seem like I hate Italy and I don't like this country, because I love it. I have to love it in order to stay here. It's like warped my brain. I love being in Rome. I love being in Italy. I love the fact that it is so relaxed. The weather here is beautiful. The cost of living is much lower than New York. And I hated paying New York rent. And paying the rent here, it's all right. You know, I don't mind it. So, yeah, I think Italy for now is amazing. It's beautiful. It's fun. I like living la bella vita. And I can't say that I recommend for other people to come here unless you really love it. But I would say that if you do plan on coming here, do your research. Just make sure you know what you're up against, because it's not going to be easy. And some days living here, you're going to want to rip your hair out. And some days living here, you're going to wake up and you're going to be like, why am I in Italy? Why? Why did I do this? Why did I come to this country? And then there's going to be a day where you're going to walk in the park and you're going to grab a gelato and you're going to sit down with your friend and you're going to be like, I love this place. This is why I'm here. So that's it, guys. Ciao, ciao. See you in the next one. Bye.